Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Abstract. Today, as you can see, a lot of people are wearing the exact same sweater. Super sick, super awesome. So applications for a conference are live now. Please apply to present. Today, we have two special guests. They were the co-chairs 2 years ago, Selina Phan and Matt Yip. Matt was co-chair for 1 year. Selina was for 2 years. Sorry, Matt, I have to plug that. Because Selina was also my reporting boss, technically. Like, I kind of have to, sorry. It kind of has to be that way. But yeah, we're very super happy that you guys made time for us. Please go ahead and introduce yourselves.
So thanks for the introduction, Lev. So my name's Selina. I am a graduate of Ivy and Western, class of 2020. I was first involved in WSRC in my first year as a social science rep, and then I was in logistics in second year, and then I was chair in third and fourth year, and now we are working from home.
Yeah, and my name's Matt. I graduated in 2019. I did a double major in physiology and epidemiology. I started in the conference, I presented it in my first year, and then joined the marketing team in second year, and then the logistics team in third year, and then I co-chaired in my final year at Western. And we're excited to be on the podcast.
And the introductions aren't done yet. You guys remember this very well. If you could be an animal, what animal would you be and why?
I don't remember what mine was, but this was an icebreaker question that I asked at every first meeting, and it was horribly awkward. However, and I think I chose a different animal every time, but I think if I could be any animal, I would be like a domestic dog, like a dog that lives in someone's house, because I feel like we all love our dogs and they have very simple lives, and all of us are busy at home working, but they just play with their toys, eat, sleep, repeat, and I feel like that would be a good life.
I think if I could be an animal, it would probably be an elephant, because they're big and slow and they do what they want on their own time. And they say that they never forget things. Whether or not that's true, I don't know, but it'd be cool to always remember everything. So yeah, I'd be an elephant.
Smart. Good answers, yeah. We're just, Ishita and I are gauging, because we were always bombarded with that kind of stuff. So now it's only fair for you guys to be on the receiving end. So yeah. Awesome. Also, another thing I realized I forgot to introduce myself real quickly. My name is Lev.
My name is Janica.
My name is Ishita.
And what animal would you guys be?
I'll give you $500 if you can guess what I said, because I said it. I'd never change my answer.
Is it a lion?
Oh no! Oh my god! All right.
Yeah. Roll the tape.
That's a lot of money. Then I just realized. I didn't think it. Whatever. That's okay.
Maybe I should be the elephant because I remember.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's my answer.
Lev, why would you be a lion?
Oh, why? My name directly translates to lion, so just makes sense. I don't know. It's just my favorite animal, I guess. King of the jungle. Even though I'm from Siberia, I don't know. Whatever.
Honestly, I'm too indecisive. Like, all the animals are really great. So I think I'd love to be like a bird. Blue jays are really big and fat, and they're in my backyard all the time, and they just eat and scare the little birds away, which is mean, but I think they're very pretty. Yeah.
Moving on to our second question. You mentioned that you were co-chairs 2 years ago, and Ishita and Lev could not stop telling me about how great of a leader both of you are. So let's take a step back and talk about when you first joined WSRC. So what intrigued you about WSRC in the first place?
I'm not sure if the stories Lev and Ishita tell are good ones or bad ones, but either way, I think I first wanted to join WSRC because I was part of the Scholar Selectives program. I think we both were, and research was a really big part of that. And I think coming into first year, I had no idea what that was or like what I was supposed to do. And so I thought WSRC was a really like approachable way to kind of learn more about it. And then the more I kind of got to meet the team and everything, it seemed like they were all really great people. And so I think that's what really sparked my interest in first year.
Yeah, I think I was interested in first year in presenting because I had done some research in my summer that I wanted to share. And I thought it was a great opportunity. I think WSRC really is one of the only opportunities for Western students to present at the kind of at a younger age or earlier on in their undergrad education. But I think once I went, what I really appreciated was seeing that there were projects from all sorts of faculties. Like I brought a science project, but it was cool to see, social science research or other people that were presenting that had things that I didn't know about at all. And so that's what pushed me to get involved with the conference. And I joined in second year as part of the organizing committee. Yeah.
Do you guys have any, what did you say, best memories? Which one did you want to say, best or worst memory that you wanted to talk about, Selina? You could talk, that's actually good.
Like
you could talk about both.
Both. Well, so we can start with a best memory. There were a lot, but I feel like a highlight every year is, it's always exciting, I think, at the beginning and at the end. At the beginning, even though the interviews take a long time, like I really enjoy getting to know people through that. And so that's actually like one of my favorite moments. And then towards the end, reading all the feedback from everybody, that's also, and doing kind of like a post-mortem analysis over many plates of sushi at our annual all-you-can-eat sushi celebration dinner, I think are the two best moments for me. I think I stole yours.
Yeah, I wanted to say Ace, all you can eat sushi. There's two famous joints in London. We only ever go to Heart Sushi. But so I think, speaking about an experience from the conference, I think one of my favorites was that at the 2019 conference, we had a keynote speaker, and that was Dr. Melvin Goodale. And he's done a lot of pioneer research in understanding visual pathways, but he also has a lot of insight to share about kind of the international research community. And research is an international phenomenon. So he would tell us a lot about his time overseas in China doing research and working with his colleagues over there, and then kind of bringing what he learned there back to his own research and how it applied, and how research really is a team sport. And I thought that that was a really good way to enforce what we were trying to do in WSRC, emphasizing the interdisciplinary nature of research, but also the collaborative nature. And I think hearing from him was really insightful and really helped to drive our message home. It was one of my favorite memories.
Worst?
What's that?
The worst.
Worst?
The worst memory.
Worst?
Those are classified.
I think Selina has one. I
I don't have any. I mean, like there were a lot of stressful moments. And I think the day of, the night before, you don't really get a lot of sleep, and there's always little small hiccups that always arise. Like I remember something as small as getting the WSRC balloons. It was like some stores only had a gold W and S, and some stores only had a silver R and C, and we're like, what do we do? And so there's a lot of that last minute troubleshooting. And on the day of, I think you're just like a bundle of nerves running around with your clipboard and like everything. So I think it's just hard to always maintain calm and composed, especially when people are asking you for help. And so I think all of those memories together, I guess I forget about them, but it's a lot of small stressful moments that make it interesting.
Yeah, I think that it kind of, to echo and to build on that, I think it's the worst, but also kind of the biggest learning moments happen when you realize that you can only plan for so much, and like stuff will come up and venues have to change, or you have to swap your plans, and you need to think on your feet. And I think that's probably, those moments where you kind of panic at first when you read the news, like, oh, this room is not available, or like, oh, we don't have enough easels for you, or they're actually booked up. I think those moments may be some of my worst memories, but even then, all's well that ends well, and it taught me something about being adaptable. So
it's great that you both learned from those experiences, and it's always good to stay calm through all those obstacles. So since leaving WSRC, where are you now? What are you doing in terms of, you know, if you're in school or working?
Yeah, I can go. I'm a little more boring. I'm in school. I'm at U of T studying medicine, and I'm in my second year, and everything's online. So it's definitely not what I was expecting. But in third and fourth year, we get to go into hospitals and learn on the job, and I think that's something I'm looking forward to. Yeah.
Yeah. So right now I'm working at remotely at an internship with LEAP, which is a venture philanthropy organization. And so they work with social impact organizations to kind of amplify and scale what they do at a larger scale. And then in January, I'll be working at the Boston Consulting Group in the Toronto office.
That's wonderful. That's good to hear, guys. Did the experience of being with WSRC help you at all with what you're doing right now, either landing the role or actual and day-to-day experiences that you have wherever you are?
I think that a lot of my experiences at WSRC helped me. It's hard to say in the actual work that I'm doing, but for sure, I think leading up to it and building some of the skills that we use today and in the interview and everything, I think WSRC was a large part of my interview process and as well as some of the skills that I do use on a day-to-day basis. So I guess some of the key ones would be like teamwork. So working with people, like not just your co-chair, but also with the people who you work with, like your different team members, sorting out some of the organizational structures and ensuring that there's like a clear succession plan and kind of looking into the future. So I guess building some of the strategic development and thinking, a lot of teamwork, even though something makes sense to me in my head, it may not make sense when I tell it to someone. And so there's a lot of feedback and communication that has to go in to make sure we all work cohesively, and just trying to build a strong culture, because at the beginning, I think a lot of people, you know, like not everyone is friends with each other. Everyone is coming from very different backgrounds. And so I think it takes a lot to try and make the meetings fun, but also productive, and striking that balance is always tricky. But those are things I think that I'll hope to take to my work in the future, making sure that things are fun, but also productive.
Yeah, I think very similar to Selina's point about learning how to work with others. I think there's this idea of medicine in some areas as being kind of like a wild west, where it's like just cowboys that are calling their own shots, and physicians that are really making decisions on their own. But I think especially at the learning stage, it's very collaborative. And so learning to work with other people. And I think the nice thing about WSRC is that there's a lot of moving parts. And so as a leader within that organization, you have to take a good, hard, honest look at yourself and what you're good at, and also what you're bad at, and you know what you can do, and then what you need to lean on other people to help you with. So I think that's something that WSRC really cultivated, this idea of self-reflexivity and looking at your own skill set and how it meshes with others.
Cool. Interesting. Congrats on BCG, Selina. I didn't know, so respect. This is more for Selina. Do you want to talk a little bit more about like your experience representing disciplines that are less common at WSRC or research in general? Obviously, we all know it's very, very like science heavy. Me personally, I come from a social science background. Selina, you do as well. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think, I mean, every year we always used to get a lot of applicants from the science background, but I think trying to get research from other disciplines presented was probably the most like hustling I did at WSRC. Like I'd cold email all the program coordinators and the associate deans or deans of the different programs to try and set up meetings with them. And then most of them were pretty interested, but the problem is that I think the format of a lot of research abstracts, we did base it off of a lot of science projects, and so they didn't always fit the criteria for social science or art projects. And so I think it was really understanding like what are their research projects like, and what are they looking at, what is their final project look like, and then really kind of adapting that application or adapting the conference to kind of allow for those types of projects. So maybe we do like a video submission, or we like the easel dimensions are different for like an art poster versus a science poster. And so I think that was a lot of the work that we did to try and encourage research from different backgrounds. And I think we did increase it when we were there, and I hope that it's still pretty diverse.
It's going. it's progress, but it's going. And it'll probably, you know, like Frank, I think, or hopefully it'll be a lot better this year as well, because I don't know if COVID's impacted any non-science research in a negative way. If it has, it hasn't. But either way, there's a lot more people that you can reach out to this year. So hopefully this year it'll be a lot better too.
So moving on to more of the research aspect, how did your involvement in the conference help you with research experience that you had personally in the past or currently?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I would say that it really opened my eyes to possibilities beyond wet lab research, and got me thinking about things beyond a lab bench. So as part of the Scholars Electives program, I think we get the chance to do a project in second and third year, kind of like a mini thesis, not quite as extensive as in fourth year. But in second year, I had research that was very similar to the research that I was doing during my summers, and that was kind of in neurobiology and understanding, you know, the molecular biology of memory and memory formation and inflammation in the brain. It's been a while. And then kind of in third year, I wanted to move into a different area. And so I was at a lab, the HEAL lab and it's technically under the geography department, and it's more of a child health lab, but it definitely looks at things from a different scope. I mean, you're no longer growing things in a petri dish. You're looking at activity data from all across London, Ontario, and peripheral cities, or you're looking at sleep or green space on GIS data. And so I think that that the conference really showed me that those areas existed, and that those areas had things that I would be interested in. And so it encouraged me to kind of branch out and move beyond, you know, very micro level neurology research and into more so big picture population health or a different faculty entirely.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it really helps you open your eyes to the different like research methods or data sets or ways of thinking about problems. I think everybody has to take like a research methods course within our 4 years at Western, but it can be really dry sometimes and you never really understand like why you're learning what you're learning. But I think when you see a lot of research projects summarized, because all the poster presenters have to, you know, like deliver their project really quickly and like a quick pitch. And I think like seeing it in a quick snapshot really helps to contextualize like, oh, like that's what a regression does, or that's why they did it, right? So I think it provides a lot of context for people to think about their own research, but also when you think about your own problems, whether with class or whatever, like you can kind of, there's a framework for it. You have your hypothesis, you like have different methods, and then there's different ways you can go about it. And then like, hopefully you'll have a good conclusion at the end.
So who would you say influenced you the most? This can be, you know, classmates or professors.
I have two. I'll let you think about yours. So I think my supervisor, I think your research supervisor is by far the most influential person in your research, and I really lucked out with mine. He was super like very structured, very well organized, and always made the time to check in with me and motivate me, providing with the resources that I needed. And so I think he was definitely one of the most influential people in my project. But also I think Freakonomics, like the podcast, they always interview really world-class researchers, and actually like the whole NPR, like the whole world of podcasts and the world of NPR, they interview some really world-class researchers, and some of the researchers are like super obscure, like dog cognitive psychology, but you listen to them and they frame it in such an interesting way, and then it's just like it just frames it in a really cool way that makes you really inspired to like continue working on the problems that you are.
Yeah, for me, I would say somebody that's influential. I don't remember the course code, but there was a classics course in sport and antiquity. And truthfully, I'd been recommended it from upper years as kind of a good category B or a good arts and humanities course to do. And then in my year, I lucked out and the prof changed. And so the course changed. But the prof was Dr. David Lamari. And it would be, every Thursday night, we'd just be sitting there for 3 hours and we'd learn about some different aspect of Greek or Roman sport. And I think it's really interesting. And I found it really impactful because you can draw a lot of analogies, and he would, between, history and modern sports, for example. Like, a lot of what you'll see in history and chariot racing applies to things like motorsports or F1. And I thought that was kind of an interesting analogy that he drew, and really encourages you to think outside the box. And research is really about making connections regardless of how you do it. And so I thought that David Lamari was an interesting person in my education, and I think back fondly on the course I took.
It's wonderful. I love that you guys are able to find other ways to connect research into like what you guys have learned and people who are important to you in your education. Do you guys have any advice for students who are looking to get into a research position, or working on a project or anything, or just trying to get into research in itself?
I would say that I think my advice for everything though is the same. And I think it always is what you put into it. And so I think a lot of people can go into, actually first it's like to be prepared. And then second is to like, I guess you get what you put into it. Because I think when you are talking to profs about wanting to get involved with their lab and stuff, it's often easy to like go to one of your own profs, or maybe a big prof in your department, and kind of just ask for research opportunities. But I think it really helps if you show that you did your homework and you read up on, his or her research topics or some of the recent papers he did. So I think that's the first piece about being prepared. And the second piece is like, I think the day-to-day aspects of research can be really mundane, and it can be a lot of work for someone, especially when oftentimes you are working by yourself and you're not working with other people, and it's hard to stay motivated. So I think staying constant to your course and like persevering, and just knowing that at the end that you will have a result, and at the end you will learn something. Maybe you won't get the result in your experiment that you wanted, but you will gain something personally. And I think just the more you put into that effort, the more you will get out of it at the end.
Yeah, I think those are some really great insights. I think in terms of if you're looking for research, I would say that it's really important to understand why, and that you, as somebody that is searching, understand why. I think once you understand this kind of vague question of why am I doing this, or why am I interested, everything else falls into place. And so this is the idea of saying, why am I interested in this lab specifically? Or how does this lab align with my interests? And then, maybe in that question and understanding yourself, you'll realize, maybe this isn't a good fit. I think it's important to know that that profs get a lot of emails, profs get a lot of requests for research, and researchers don't have time to field all of them. And so what's really going to cut through the noise is somebody that is aligned in not just motivation. I think anybody wants to do research, but also aligned in their intention and understanding, what their interests are, and having a clear idea of how that interest aligns with the interests of the PI or the lab. I think would really come through in an email or in a cold call. And I think that kind of stems from the question of why. So that would be my biggest advice in terms of people looking to get involved in research.
I guess looking back, like, is there anything that you guys would have done different, knowing or like being through the entire process where you guys are now? Anything you would have done different, even going back to whatever year?
Like all a blur. I don't know. It's also like
it all went perfect for you.
Yeah, it
all went perfect.
Love. Everything was executed perfectly, and I don't know. It's hard for me to see what would have been different if we really were being scientific about it. We would have to run 2 separate variations where we made one decision and where we made the second decision and see what the outcomes are. I think I'm really happy with the outcomes that did happen. And like, I think you guys are both also in really great positions to continue leading the conference forward. And so I wonder if any decision that I made earlier on would have like affected that. And I hope that it wouldn't. I think there's always things you look back on and you're like, oh, maybe this would have been different in certain ways. And I think in terms of the people that we hired, like that was for me the most important part of it. And I think I'm really happy with like how it's turned out.
Yeah. I guess hindsight is 2020, but given the situation right now with COVID, I think that it'd be interesting. I know in our year together as co-chairs, we did try and branch out into something called the Summer Undergraduate Research Day, and we kind of gave people an opportunity to present summer research, and it was a good opportunity for undergrads that were first years to get exposure to upper years that were interested in research. So maybe trying new projects and trying new things. I think it's amazing that you guys are launching this podcast and that you're trying to branch out as WSRC. So maybe more of that. I don't know, maybe something online or some type of online engagement, even just streaming some of the conference for people to be engaging with online would kind of build resiliency as an organization, so that when you get thrown this curveball of COVID, you're not totally you're not totally without resources. But hindsight is 2020, and I don't know what's coming next, but something to think about, I guess.
Perfect. That's amazing advice. Thank you so much for coming here to speak. And I'm sure that a lot of our viewers are, learning from your experiences with WSRC. So thank you so much for guest speaking here today. And we wish you success in all your future endeavors.
Thanks so much.
Thanks. Yeah. Good luck with the rest of this podcast and hoping that it'll go super well.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.